The depths. The world was dead. Its sky was heavy with smoke, and the ground was nothing but black rock and twisted metal. Once, this place had been alive with cities, voices, and hope, but now it was only silence. Among the ruins walked a man, broken in body, but not yet gone. His armor was cracked, his face pale, his steps slow, but his eyes still burned with a small fire. He was the last survivor of a battle that had destroyed everything he knew. The war had taken his people, his ship, his home, and left him crawling through shadows, searching for something, anything, to remind him that he was still human. The ruins whispered at night, machines half dead but not silent, wires glowing faintly, screens flickering with codes from a forgotten age. The man heard them as he walked, but he did not fear them. Fear had left him long ago, when the bombs fell and the screams of his people were drowned in fire. Now there was only emptiness. Yet in that emptiness, something new stirred. One night, as he lay beneath a broken tower, the air shivered with a sound he had not heard for many years. It was a signal, weak but steady, a voice carried through static. It echoed through the hollow ruins, bouncing off steel and stone, until it found his ears. He rose slowly, his heart racing, though his body ached with pain. The signal repeated, a pattern, not random, not natural, but made by someone. It was calling him, guiding him, like a thread of light in the darkness. He followed, step after step, across broken bridges and through tunnels of ash. The world around him seemed to shift, the air growing colder, heavier, as if watching him. The machines that had once been silent now flickered as he passed, like eyes opening in the dark. The signal grew stronger, pulsing in his head, pulling him deeper into the heart of the dead city. His body begged him to stop, to rest, but his spirit refused. Something inside told him this was not just a trap, it was a chance, maybe his last. As he climbed through the ruins, he remembered the faces of his people, the laughter, the songs, the promise of the stars. He remembered the moment they were taken, and the vow he made to himself, that if he lived, he would never give in. Now, the vow carried him forward, even when his legs shook and his breath broke in his chest. Finally, he reached the center of the ruins. There, beneath a dome of shattered glass, a great machine waited. Its surface was covered in dust and scars, but its core still glowed faintly, like the heart of a sleeping beast. The signal came from within it, beating like a pulse alive. The man stepped closer, hand trembling as he reached out. The machine stirred, its lights flickering, its voice rising from the depths of silence. "Survivor," it whispered through static, "you are not forgotten." The man froze, his eyes wide. No one had spoken to him in years. His throat tightened, and his heart pounded. The voice continued, stronger now. "Follow, the queen is waiting." The queen. The word echoed in his mind, sharp and heavy. He did not know her, he did not understand, but the promise in the machine's voice was clear. Someone knew he was alive, someone wanted him, someone powerful. For the first time in years, hope stirred in his chest, fragile but real. The man closed his eyes, breathed deep, and whispered back, "Then guide me." The machine's lights flared, the signal surged, and the ruins around him seemed to awaken. Gears turned, metal shifted, hidden pathways opened in the shadows. The world that had been nothing but death now revealed a secret beneath its skin. And in that secret, the broken man took his first step toward a destiny greater than survival. The Queen of Riches had seen him, and she was calling him from the depths. The Queen of Riches. The man walked through the hidden path the machine revealed. The tunnels glowed with faint blue light, as if the dead city itself was waking from a long sleep. Each step carried him deeper underground, away from the ruins above, into something older, stranger. The air was heavy but alive, humming with the rhythm of machines that had not spoken in centuries. He felt as if invisible eyes followed him, measuring him, weighing his worth. At last, he reached a chamber vast and golden, hidden beneath the ashes of the world. It was not ruin, but treasure, shining walls carved with symbols of power, machines humming like music. And in the center, suspended in light, was a throne unlike any he had ever seen. Upon it sat a figure, radiant and terrible, the Queen of Riches. Her crown was not of jewels, but of energy, strands of light weaving above her head. Her armor was dark but alive, covered with shifting patterns of gold, as if the metal itself breathed. Her eyes glowed like twin stars, sharp, ancient, watching him without mercy. The broken man fell to his knees, not from fear, but from the weight of her presence. She did not speak at first, only studied him, as if peeling away his scars and seeing the truth inside. The silence stretched, heavy as stone, until her voice finally filled the chamber. "Rise," she commanded, her tone both gentle and unbreakable. The man obeyed, though his body trembled. "You are not like the others," she said, her voice echoing through the walls. "You survived when all else burned." He swallowed hard, unsure if her words were praise or judgment. "I am broken," he said quietly, his voice rough. "I have nothing left." The queen leaned forward, and her eyes blazed brighter. "Broken," she repeated, "or forged." She rose from the throne, her steps silent but heavy with power. As she drew near, the light of the chamber bent around her, as if even the world obeyed her will. She stood before him, towering, not with size but with presence. "You are a shard of iron," she said, scarred by fire, yet unbent. She reached out her hand, and in her palm appeared a fragment of shining metal. It floated like a star, pulsing with warmth. "This," she said, "is the gift of my empire." The man stared, his heart racing. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice trembling between fear and hunger. The queen tilted her head, her lips curving into a faint smile. "I want what no machine, no soldier, no treasure can give me," she whispered, "a spirit that refuses to die." Her words struck him harder than any weapon. All his pain, all his loss, all his wandering. It was as if she had seen it in a single glance. "You will serve me," she said, her voice like thunder, "not as a slave, but as proof." "Proof?" he asked, his voice breaking. "That even the broken can rise, that even ashes can burn again," she declared. Her voice shook the chamber, and the machines around them flared with golden light. The man's chest tightened, a storm raging inside him. For years, he had walked with no purpose, no hope, no reason. Now, this queen, this force greater than kings and armies, was offering him something more. Not pity, not comfort, but a chance to fight again, to rise, to matter. He clenched his fists, his eyes burning. "If I take this gift," he said slowly, "I will not fight for riches, I will not fight for crowns." The queen's smile grew sharper, as if she had waited for these words. "Good," she said softly, "fight for yourself, and you will fight with a fire no empire can match." The fragment of light in her palm drifted toward him, sinking into his chest. He gasped, as warmth spread through his body, mending wounds, filling his veins with strength he thought lost. For the first time in years, he stood tall, his shoulders straight, his breath steady. The Queen of Riches looked at him, her eyes blazing with pride and danger. "You are no longer a shadow of the dead," she said. "You are mine now, reborn." The chamber thundered with the sound of awakening machines, as if the whole empire had heard her words. The man's heart pounded, not with fear, but with fire. He was no longer broken. He was chosen, and the Queen of Riches had given him a new life. Broken, but unyielding, the man stood in the chamber of gold, the queen's light still burning in his chest. His wounds were healed, his body renewed, but his spirit was restless. The gift she had given him was power, but also a chain, invisible yet heavy. He looked at her throne, at her crown of light, and felt both awe and suspicion. The Queen of Riches did not rule through kindness. He could see it in her eyes. She ruled through strength, through fear, through wealth beyond imagining. And now she wanted him, a broken man, to stand among her treasures. The queen watched him closely, as if she could hear every thought in his mind. "You carry doubt," she said, her voice sharp. "Good. Doubt makes you sharper than blind faith." She raised her hand, and the walls of the chamber shifted, splitting apart. From the darkness, soldiers of her empire marched forward, their armor shining, their faces hidden. They surrounded the man, weapons aimed, their movements perfect like machines. The queen's voice filled the hall. "If you're truly unyielding, prove it." The man's fists tightened, his heart racing. "You healed me only to destroy me," he said, his voice steady. The queen's lips curve in a small smile. "If you break here, then you are never worth saving." The soldiers advanced, their steps echoing like thunder. The man had no weapon, no shield, only his bare hands and his will. But he did not kneel, he did not beg. He stood tall, his eyes blazing. The first soldier lunged, and the man moved faster than he thought possible. The light in his chest pulsed, his strength rising like fire. He struck, and the soldier fell, armor cracking under his hand. More came, surrounding him, blades flashing, energy bolts flying. He fought with everything he had, not perfect, not graceful, but relentless. He was knocked down, cut, battered, yet every time he fell, he rose again. His voice roared through the chamber. "I will not kneel." The queen watched in silence, her eyes glowing brighter with every strike. One by one, the soldiers fell, not because he was stronger, but because he refused to stop. At last, only silence remained, the broken man standing bloodied but unbent in the golden chamber. His chest heaved, his fists trembled, but his eyes never lowered. The queen rose from her throne, her voice like thunder. "Yes." She stepped closer, her gaze locked on him. "You are not polished like a jewel," she said. "You are raw, scarred, but unyielding." Her hand brushed the air, and the fallen soldiers vanished, illusions of light dissolving into dust. The man staggered, realizing he had fought not against men, but against a test of the queen's making. "You toyed with me," he said, his voice sharp with anger. The queen's smile was cold but proud. "I measured you." He clenched his fists, but he did not look away from her. "And what did you find?" he demanded. She leaned close, her golden eyes blazing. "I found a man who cannot be broken," she said, "and that is worth more than gold." The chamber shook as her words echoed, machines whirring, walls glowing with fresh light. The queen extended her hand again, this time not with a gift, but with command. "Stand beside me, not as treasure, not as servant, but as proof," she declared. The man stared at her hand, the fire in his chest burning brighter. He knew this was not safety, not peace, but war and burden. Yet he also knew this was the path where his spirit could rise. Slowly, he reached out, his scarred hand meeting hers. A bond was formed, not of love, not of loyalty, but of respect forged in fire. The Queen of Riches had tested him, and he had not bent. Now he was no longer just a survivor. He was the unyielding man who stood in the court of Queen. New life offered. The chamber of gold was silent again. The broken man stood tall, scarred and breathing hard, but unyielding. The Queen of Riches returned to her throne, her crown of light swirling above her head. She looked at him not as a beggar, not as a prisoner, but as something rare. "You have proven yourself," she said, her voice steady. "But proof is only the beginning." The man wiped the blood from his face, his body trembling with exhaustion. "What more do you want from me?" he asked. The queen leaned forward, her eyes burning like suns. "I do not want obedience," she said. "I want strength that grows from choice, not command." Her words struck him harder than her soldiers had. "Choice," he repeated, his voice unsure. She raised her hand, and the chamber walls shifted again, revealing a hidden vault. Inside, 3 great objects floated in golden light, each pulsing with power. The first was armor, black and gold, alive with shifting energy. The second was a blade, long and sharp, its edge glowing with fire. The third was not a weapon, but a small sphere, dark and quiet, whispering like a heartbeat. The man stepped closer, his breath caught in his chest. "These are gifts," the queen said, "but each gift has a price." She pointed to the armor. "Take this, and your body will be stronger, faster, unbreakable. But you will be a weapon first, a man second." She pointed to the blade. "Take this, and no enemy will stand before you. But you will always thirst for battle, for blood, and peace will never find you." Finally, she pointed to the sphere. "Take this, and you will carry secrets beyond your understanding. But knowledge is a burden, and once you see the truth, you cannot turn away." The man stared at the choices, his heart pounding. Each gift was power, but each gift was a curse. He turned to the queen, his voice sharp. "Why offer me these? Why not just command me?" The queen rose from her throne, her steps silent. "Because I do not build slaves," she said. "I build legends." Her words shook him, filling the chamber with weight. "Choose, broken man," she said, her voice like fire, "and become something more." The man closed his eyes, his mind racing. Armor meant safety, but also chains. The blade meant glory, but also endless war. The sphere meant wisdom, but also pain. He thought of the ruins, the silence, the loss that haunted him. He thought of the vow he made, to never kneel, never surrender, never let death take what life remained. Slowly, he reached out, not for the armor, not for the blade, but for the sphere. The dark sphere floated into his palm, heavy and alive, its whispers crawling into his mind. The queen's eyes narrowed, a spark of surprise breaking her calm. "Interesting," she said softly. "Few choose the path of knowledge, for it is the hardest to bear." The man felt the sphere sink into his chest, merging with the light already burning within him. Vision struck him at once, stars exploding, worlds burning, empires rising and falling. He staggered, his mind overwhelmed, his body shaking. But through the storm of visions, he held on, teeth clenched, refusing to break. The queen watched, her lips curving into a rare smile. "Yes," she whispered, unyielding even against truth itself. The man gasped, his eyes glowing faintly now, not with fire, but with knowledge. He saw the queen differently, her crown of light shifting, her throne pulsing with secrets hidden from her people. He saw her empire as both strong and fragile, built on power, but hungry for something greater. The queen stepped closer, her voice low. "Now you carry what others fear, the weight of hidden truth." The man straightened, his voice steady though his body trembled. "I will not be your weapon," he said. "I will not be your slave." The queen's smile widened, fierce and proud. "Good," she said. "Then you will be my equal in spirit, though the galaxy will never see it that way." The chamber roared as machines awakened again, lights flooding the walls. The queen raised her hand high, her voice booming. "Rise, man of the depths, rise reborn, not broken, but chosen." And the Empire, listening through 1,000 hidden eyes, felt the tremor of a new legend begin. The first trial, the broken man, now carrying the sphere's hidden truth, stood before the queen once more. Her eyes burned like suns, but her voice was calm, almost quiet. "Power without trial is nothing," she said. "Knowledge without action is weakness." She lifted her hand, and a golden map unfolded in the air, showing a shattered planet on the edge of her empire. "This world was once mine," she said. "Now it crawls with beasts and rebels who spit on my name." Her gaze pierced him, sharp as a blade. "You will go there, lead my soldiers, and cleanse it." The man's jaw tightened, his fists clenched. "Your soldiers will not follow me," he said. "They see me as broken." The queen's smile was sharp, like a hunter's. "Then make them follow," she whispered, "not with fear, but with fire." Moments later, he stood on the deck of a warship, surrounded by armored soldiers. Their faces hidden, their eyes cold. They looked at him as if he was a mistake. A commander, tall and proud, stepped forward, his voice dripping with contempt. "You are no soldier of the queen," the commander said. "You are a beggar," she dressed in light. The man stared back, unflinching. "I'm not here for your respect," he said. "I am here to survive, and if you want to live, you will walk with me." The soldiers laughed, harsh and cruel, but the fire in his eyes silenced them faster than any weapon. The ship landed on the broken world, its sky torn with storms, its ground crawling with beasts that fed on the dead. The soldiers marched out, their steps heavy, their weapons ready, but their trust fragile. The man led them into the ruins, his mind burning with whispers from the sphere inside him. It showed him hidden paths, weak walls, traps buried under stone. The others did not see, but he did. Soon, the beasts came, shadows with teeth of fire and claws of steel. The soldiers fought hard, their blades flashing, but the monsters were endless. The commander shouted orders, but fear broke the lines. One by one, the soldiers began to fall. The man roared, his voice carrying above the chaos. "Stand together, or we all die." The soldiers froze for a heartbeat, their eyes turning to him. He moved through the beasts with fury, his fists and blade cutting like storms, his eyes glowing with knowledge. He showed them where to strike, how to trap the monsters, how to use the ruins themselves as weapons. Walls collapsed on beasts, fire pits opened beneath their claws, traps swallowed them whole. Slowly, the tide turned. The commander, once mocking, now followed his lead, barking orders that matched the man's plan. And for the first time, the soldiers saw not a broken man, but a warrior reborn. At last, the beasts lay dead, their bodies smoking in the dust. The soldiers stood panting, staring at him with a new silence, not of scorn, but of respect. The commander stepped forward, his head bowed slightly. "You saved us," he said, his voice grudging. The man's chest rose and fell, his fists still trembling. "I saved no one," he said. "We saved ourselves because we fought as one." The soldiers looked at one another, the fire of shame and pride mixing in their eyes. For the first time, they believed. Far above, on her throne of light, the queen watched through hidden eyes. She smiled, her voice a whisper only she could hear. "Yes," she said, "he bends no knee, yet he makes others rise." But deep in his chest, the sphere whispered again, louder now. It showed him visions of the queen's empire, her fleets, her riches, her hidden fears. And it whispered of another truth, that the queen's trials were not only tests for him, but for her as well. The man clenched his fists, his jaw set. He had survived the first trial. He had won the trust of those who mocked him. But now he carried more than strength. He carried a question. Was he truly being shaped into a legend, or into a weapon for the queen's throne? The man who rises. The broken man, once mocked and forgotten, returned from his first trial. He walked through the golden gates of the queen's palace, soldiers at his back, no longer doubting him. They carried scars, they carried blood, but they also carried respect for the one who had led them through death. The queen sat upon her throne, her crown of light shining brighter than before. She watched him approach, her eyes sharp, her lips curved in a faint smile. "You stand taller than when you left," she said, her voice steady. "You carry not just your own fire, but the fire of others." The man bowed slightly, but not in submission, only in recognition. "They follow me now," he said, his voice firm, "not because of your crown, but because they saw me fight beside them." The queen's smile sharpened, though her eyes flickered with something colder. "Yes," she whispered, "that is why they will remember you." Word spread quickly across the empire. Stories of the man from the depths who led soldiers through beasts and fire. Whispers of the unbroken survivor who rose where all others had fallen. The common people, who lived in shadows of fear and wealth, began to speak his name with quiet hope. Some called him the queen's chosen, others called him her weapon, but a few dared to call him something more, her equal. The queen heard these whispers, and though she laughed, she did not forget them. Meanwhile, the man trained harder, faster, his body unbreakable, his mind sharpened by the sphere's whispers. The visions came stronger now, haunting him, guiding him, showing him the Empire's hidden cracks. He saw fleets stretched thin, rebels rising in secret, and a shadow beyond the stars that even the queen feared. At night, when the palace was quiet, he stood alone on the balcony, staring at the stars. The sphere pulsed in his chest, whispering, "You are not her servant. You are the storm she cannot control." He clenched his fists, his jaw tight, torn between the hope the queen had given him and the truth the sphere revealed. Still, each morning, he stood before her court, his presence commanding, his voice carrying strength. When soldiers saw him, they straightened. When the broken saw him, they believed. He had become more than a man. He had become a symbol. But symbols are dangerous. One day, during a gathering of the Queen's Council, the lords and generals argued over power and riches. The man stood silent, watching, until their greed boiled into threats. With a single step forward, his voice cut through the chamber. "Enough," he said, his tone like thunder. "You fight for coins while the galaxy burns." The chamber froze, the lords staring at him with shock and anger. "Who are you to speak?" one demanded. "You are nothing but a pet of the queen." The man's eyes blazed, the sphere glowing faintly in his chest. "I am the proof that the broken rise," he said, "and I will not watch this empire rot while you squabble." The queen's eyes narrowed, her gaze sharp as blades. But instead of silencing him, she rose and spoke, her voice carrying pride. "He is right," she declared. "He is not my pet. He is the fire you lack." The lords lowered their eyes, ashamed. And in that moment, the queen lifted him higher in the eyes of her empire, even as a shadow of doubt crept deeper into her own heart. For she saw the way the people cheered his name, the way soldiers looked to him before her. And though she had raised him, she wondered if she had forged a weapon she could not command. That night, as the stars burned above, the sphere whispered again. "You are rising," it said, "but the higher you rise, the more the queen will fear you." The man stood in silence, his heart heavy with the weight of truth. He had risen, yes, but he knew the climb was far from over, and the storm ahead would test not only his strength, but his bond with the queen herself. The new beginning. The empire gathered beneath golden banners. From every world, lords, soldiers, and common people filled the grand chamber. The Queen of Riches sat upon her throne of light, her crown burning brighter than ever. At her side stood the man who had once been broken. Now he was no shadow, no survivor crawling through ruins, but a figure who stood tall, unbent, unyielding. His presence filled the hall like a storm. The queen rose, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Behold," she said, "the man who came from the depths, who faced death and rose again." Her words echoed, shaking the walls. "He is proof that strength is not born of riches, but of fire that refuses to die." The people roared, their voices a tide of thunder. The soldiers stamped their boots, their fists raised high. They no longer saw him as a stranger, but as one of their own, as a beacon of survival. The man lifted his hand, silencing the roar. His voice cut through the hall, steady and fierce. "I was broken," he said. "I was nothing, left to rot in shadows." The chamber grew still, all eyes upon him. "But I rose," he continued, "not for crowns, not for treasures, but because life itself demanded I fight." He turned, his gaze sweeping over soldiers, lords, and common folk alike. "And now I tell you this. If I can rise, so can you." The hall erupted again, louder than before, a wave of voices calling his name. The queen smiled, proud but sharp, her eyes never leaving him. For she knew this was no ordinary man now, but a force that could shape destiny. Yet deep within her, a whisper of unease stirred. The sphere in his chest pulsed, and its voice coiled through his mind. "They cheer your name louder than hers," it whispered. "You are the storm that will break her crown." The man clenched his fists, his jaw tight. He looked at the queen, standing tall, radiant, and terrible. She had saved him, rebuilt him, given him purpose. But the sphere showed him truths she would never share. He saw fleets stretched across the stars, wars waiting to ignite, shadows moving in the dark beyond her empire. He knew this peace, this unity, was only the beginning of something greater, something dangerous. The queen stepped forward, lifting her hand to the crowd. "This man," she declared, "will walk beside me, not as servant, not as slave, but as proof that the broken can rise." The chamber thundered with cheers, but in that moment, their eyes met, queen and man, fire and fire. And for the first time, both knew the truth. Their bond was not of master and follower, but of two storms colliding. That night, as the empire celebrated, the man stood alone on the balcony of the palace. The stars stretched above, endless and silent. The sphere pulsed within him, whispering softly, "Your story does not end here," it said. "It begins." He clenched his fists, his gaze fixed on the horizon of stars. For beyond the queen's empire, beyond her riches, beyond her crown, something waited. Something that would test him, test her, test everything they had built. The man who was once broken now carried not just life, but destiny. And destiny was never gentle. The Queen of Riches had given him a new life. But what he did with that life would shake the stars themselves.